Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Constructing the Future podcast. I'm your host, Rhianna Di Trapani, Director of Virtual Civil Consulting, a remote-first project management consultancy helping you with all things pre-contracts. Today, we've got Joel Martin, the Managing Director of 4020 Consult. In 2017, Joel established 4020 to provide clients in the construction, engineering, and resources sector with an opportunity to manage their people strategy and professional sourcing operations a little differently. Now, I know when we first met, Joel, you said, we're not a recruitment company. We connect people and projects, which I love. So welcome, Joel.
Thanks for having me. It's 100% my pleasure. It's funny, I'm proud to be a recruiter, but one of the reasons that we don't use that terminology all the time is because of the industry perception of recruitment and recruiters. And we don't want people just to make really quick assumptions that we're also in line with those perceptions. I don't need to elaborate on what some of those perceptions are. So just to remove ourselves from that quick assumption, we talk about connecting people and projects, and we talk about professionals and our client partners. So we just tweak the terminology, and we do try to improve our service, information sharing, incrementally over time. But it's not like we've dramatically changed the game. It's just being mindful of helping everybody and offering good service. So we wanted to separate ourselves a little bit, hence that choice. So connecting people and projects, it sums us up really nicely, because we connect people to people for no net gain to ourselves, just for network purposes and to help people to pay it forward. But we obviously also connect people to companies and to really cool projects. So it sums it up nicely.
You've made it really hard for any future companies looking to start and wanting like a really catchy slogan or hook line. And if everyone thinks of that, they're like, oh, I can't use it now.
Well, I gave them a lot of chance by choosing like a weird company name. So I had to have a good motto. Yeah.
I'm so glad you mentioned that about the company name. I kind of want, I guess I gave the very, this is from your website description, but I would love for you to explain a bit more about 4020 Consult. And I do love the origin of the name.
Yeah, I love what I do, and I feel very blessed to bounce out of bed every morning and want to get stuck in, and so that it feels like a really good opportunity. And I felt that way when I worked in companies, and so it's only been the last, it's coming up 7 years now that I've been working for myself, but when I started the company, I was Googling, and I'd studied marketing, so I probably sometimes can overthink about marketing and branding, and a lot of the cool names were taken, and I never wanted to be like Joel Martin, legendary associates, or anything about me. And I just thought, well, what about a number? And I literally was like, well, my wedding day, but what if she kicks me to the curb? That would be awkward. I've got 2 kids, so I couldn't choose one child's birthday because the other one would be annoyed. And then I'm from Redcliffe, and I'm really, really proud of that fact. A lot of people couldn't wait to get out of Redcliffe. Whilst I don't live there now, so many of my family and friends live there, and I loved it. My upbringing in Redcliffe molded me to who I am today, and I always wanted to give Redcliffe a shout out, the peninsula.
Love that.
And so 4020, and I was sort of thinking about the postcode, and it just rolls off the tongue. And I went with it, and I didn't know how big the business would be. My goal was essentially 10 staff over 10 years for $10 million revenue. That was my little goal to have. And I tell everyone we're well ahead of our schedule on those targets, which is great.
That's awesome.
But yeah, one benefit of it was that all the industry association membership lists on websites, or when you get invited to things, or if you sponsor things, numbers are always first ahead of letters. So even triple A Aardvark would be below 4020 Consult on the listing. So little old
Right.
4020 consult turns up on websites like as number one or number two on all those lists at
That's
conventions and
so clever.
conferences. Yeah, I didn't actually think about that at the time, but I'll take it as like, residual value that, yeah, like second value, let's call it.
So I guess you mentioned, so you spent a lot of time in the industry working for companies, and it's been about 7 years since you've been working for yourself. What
Yep.
what gave you the courage or the leap of faith to go, yeah, I'm done working for other people. I just want to be my own boss.
Um, Yeah, it's interesting because I worked like in for recruitment agencies and recruitment
Mm-hmm.
companies and learned a lot from some really great leaders. Um, but I also worked for civil construction companies, and I think that sort of rounded out my experience where I was on the other side of the table. I wasn't a supplier at arm's length, and I realised that there was a way to do it that was slightly different, where you could take the knowledge of both. And I've been a candidate before too, so like I felt like I've been the client, I've been the recruiter, I've been the candidate. So take that
Yeah.
knowledge into um, every situation and have a bit more of a well-rounded perspective. And I think it was time. Like I probably left it a little bit later than a lot of people do, but I think that I am like the summary or the potpourri of all my experiences and all the people that I've dealt with over my career. So I probably saved myself some pain and suffering by starting a bit later, but there was
Mm-hmm.
obviously pain and suffering still. And it just forms you and shapes you. I don't know. They say it's character revealing, not character building. I don't know. Some days are really rough, but they make the fun days and the successful days seem even better.
Yeah. Um, that's a good point about, like, you have rough days and everyone online in particular just sees the good days. I'd love to know, what does a really good day look like for you, and what does, conversely, a really bad day look like for you?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's probably not what people would think. Like I think, and just rounding out that previous question, like seeing like awesome people and taking bits of their good stuff from them, and but then also avoiding some of the problems that I saw in other businesses. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think there's a point when you're either going to do it or you don't do it when you start a business.
Yeah,
But I think Colonel Sanders didn't start KFC until he was like 65 years old or something. So you're never too old.
I've heard
Um,
this.
yeah, not that you should eat KFC; it's really bad for you. Um, now I've forgotten what your question was. What was the next question?
What does, like, a good day look like, and
Oh yeah,
conversely,
yeah.
what does a
So
bad
like
day look like?
I think sometimes it's like actually overcoming the adversity efficiently, not
Mm,
not losing our minds and coming up with a solution. So like we've had like there's smooth sailing days where you make a lot of placements because we're like an inch wide, mile deep. Like we do infrastructure and utilities,
mm-hmm.
pre-contracts engineering and commercial management roles, throw some supervisors in there. Like the role types are not that vast. We can shortlist roles really efficiently, 48 to
Yeah,
72 hours, contract or perm. So doing that is just like the regular stuff. Like I get a kick out of it, but it's the regular stuff. It's probably
yeah,
the things that where we help people more. It's like finding someone a job they didn't think they deserved or they didn't think that they were capable of getting, helping them find
right.
meaning. So we find meaning through their why and their meaning. Um, we've had like a guy that was like sacked at really short notice, really through no fault of his own, and being able to activate really quickly to get him a contract gig that actually paid him more
Yeah.
money than that other employer was paying him. And he basically jumped straight into Ubering and doing Uber Eats because he had 3 kids at home. And we had him within
Gosh.
like 3 days, we had his next contract sorted for him and he was starting the following Monday.
Yeah.
That like seemed like amazing to the whole team. Um, we had a
Yeah.
candidate that was like living in their car, and we were able to
Oh
organise
my
them
god.
like temporary accommodation for no cost to them.
Oh, that's
Um,
so nice.
some of that stuff, like we recently bought a hoist for a foundation which basically allows women that are victims of domestic violence to go to a secret location and get all their tech and their vehicles scanned for tracking devices. Um,
Whoa.
so having the money in the company just to be like, it's a no-brainer. We just go, here's like the money for like a full vehicle hoist that we just like that was so much more powerful and meaningful to me, because that means I'm helping people on a grand scale that aren't engineers. They're not,
Yeah.
they're not even in my industry. So the day to day is cool. We get a kick out of finding people, opportunities and connecting people and projects. But there's some of that peripheral stuff that if the company wasn't so successful, we wouldn't be able to do. So some of those, like, yeah, they're a bit touchy feely, but they do, like, they hit you in the feels, and we get a kick out of that as well.
That's amazing. That is so nice to be able to be in like you said, be in a position to be able to give back. But then also, it sounds like you're so personally invested in that side of things. Like, this isn't just a job for you; it's about giving back to the community and helping where you can, which
Yeah.
is really nice.
Um,
Um,
we can
yeah.
help everybody. We can help everybody. We can help everybody. I keep telling everyone, you can help everybody. You don't need to do business with them. You don't need to send them an invoice. In recruitment world, you don't need to put them in a job. And a lot of recruiters, they miss that memo. They don't think philanthropically. They think like every minute of every day has got to lead to an invoice. And I'm
Right.
like the living, breathing example of and the collection of karma and helping people. And my really fortunate life that I love is a byproduct of always helping people and always. And I tell people on all these podcasts, like, my mum's like a hippie. She's almost too nice. And my dad was a commercial manager in like high rise building construction. So he was the opposite end of the spectrum. And I'm definitely like, I understand capitalism and I understand money, but I'm way closer
Yep.
to my mum on the spectrum. And it was always about helping people. And I never wanted my mum to hear about something I did and be disappointed in me. So we
Right.
can help everybody. Everybody that listens to this, they can help somebody today and tomorrow. And like, seriously, one of my favorite things is to randomly pay for the people's lunch at the drive-through when they're behind me in the
Uh,
queue. I love it.
I
I
do.
love doing it.
I feel like you've given me a lot of motivation today, and I think I'm gonna go straight to like a drive-through and be like, I want to pay for the people behind me.
Yeah, I
That
don't
is
know. Like,
something really nice.
yeah, it's, and like, I just say to the person in the works there, tell them to pay it forward, like.
Hmm.
And sometimes you can see that, like, they look like they're like down in the dumps, and they're like, "Oh, I'll go and get my favorite takeaway lunch or something, maybe pep them up," because they just don't. You can look at their body language in the mirror, and then you get like this, beep the horn, a big
Right.
wave, and a thumbs up, and that fills my bucket. So I feed off the endorphins of that. So it's not as generous and selfless as it seems, because like I'm like, oh, how cool is this? So there's probably like an hour
Yeah,
of
yeah.
me feeling awesome that for $14, I think an hour of awesome, most people would spend $14 to feel that way. So, yeah,
100%.
helping
You're then
people.
walking around everywhere telling everyone, I just bought
No,
them their coffee, made my
yeah,
day.
I try to, like, I kind of, yeah, sometimes I do it. I tell people so hopefully inspire them to do the same, but I really couldn't give a shit,
100%.
like, what people think about me as whether I'm generous or nice or an asshole. Because the
Yeah.
tribe, the community that know me really well, and it starts with my
Yeah.
family and it starts with my friends, my clients, and the professionals I network. If they know what true Joel is like, then that's the most
Yeah.
important thing. If you don't know me, like, you can't judge me, and if you do judge me, I really don't care.
Yeah. Nah, that's awesome. I know you mentioned that, starting the business was not so much like character building. But what would you say is your biggest skill set or like your biggest asset when you think of like skills and things like that have made you successful? Because you have such a different viewpoint on, and it's so cheesy when people say do what you love and the money will come and the money or the success will come, but it really feels very true when you speak about it. It's like, I just do what I love, and the success comes with it, and then I just give
Oh,
back, and it's just this cycle.
it's true. Like, I really can't harp on about it enough. Like, it's, um, I used to drive forklifts for a living. I like lived in a caravan, like a very humble upbringing. So I appreciate like security and like shelter and like good food. I
Yeah.
don't appreciate like big gold watches or bright yellow Lamborghinis.
Yeah.
And I don't judge people for having that stuff, because if they need it, they should go for it. But for me, it's like feeling like
Mm,
providing. I've had a chip on my shoulder. I wanted to prove I was good enough to myself, really. And then the
sure.
knock on effect of that is the business is good, and like other people get to appreciate our service and what we do. But the things like my own traits, um, like it's probably stuff that I've just grabbed along the way from people. Like I will give a shout out to a guy. His name's Kurek Ashley, and he's like a motivational speaker and a real legend. He lives on the Sunshine Coast now, like I do.
Okay.
And I worked in a gym in Edward Street like 28 years ago or something, and he was one of the members.
Yeah.
And he'd come in, and I'd say, "How you going, mate?" And he'd always say, "I am most excellent." And he'd say it with this like power and oomph, and you believed him. And we got talking, and like he'd say things, and you just like you'd laugh, but it was really engaging, and it was more his energy. And he'd be like, "Joel,
Yeah.
I've been in 27 feature films, I've hung around," and like you'd just be on this like ride of his energy was so infectious. And I read a little book he wrote, and I did some DVDs once, and I listened to a lot of his
Yeah.
stuff, and I realized you're the master of your own destiny. And I realized
Yeah.
like your energy and your self belief is like everything. Um, and it actually made me change my thoughts about my career. And I didn't need a lot of things
Yeah.
that people think you need. Um,
Mm,
and then I did read a book like Think and Grow Rich.
yep.
And that like changed. I like that reinforced what Kurek Ashley had told me
Okay.
and sort of taught me.
I have
And I
heard
just
about
wanted
that
to be the
book.
master of my own destiny. And I say to everybody, yeah, it's awesome. Like Think and Grow Rich is like old too, like but it still resonates. It still
Yeah.
rings true to this day. Um, and it was just, it's like, it's basically a lot of good tips from like successful business people. But at the end of the day, it all comes back to your energy, your self belief, and just getting it done.
Yep.
Um, and so I had a mantra. I was going to a really crap job. It was like I'd get on the bus at 5 a.m. in the morning to go to this crap job. And I would say to myself, like, I'm happy, healthy, and full of positive energy. And I'd say it 10
Yep.
times in a row every morning when I got on the bus, because the job wasn't great. The bus ride was
Yep.
depressing. Um, and I just convinced myself that I was the power that was going to be like everything that I achieved was up to me. Um,
That's
and I
awesome.
think it's worked, and I just keep doing it, keep trying to be positive. And I have like shit days. I still have my little
Yep.
tantrums occasionally, but they're very very short, and I recover from them very very quickly. Um,
Yep.
and I think a lot of people need to like believe in themselves more and understand like the power of their mind and what they tell
Mm,
themselves in their own head, because
yep.
it becomes the truth. Like you create your own reality. Um, so whatever it is you want to achieve, whatever your goal is, for your
Yep.
life, for your family, for yourself as an individual, outside of work, inside of work, yeah, you've basically you can do it with your own the power of your mind. Um, like if you say like you want to, you're short and old like me, and you say you want to play in the NBA, that's not going to happen. But within reason, you can achieve a lot of stuff
Right.
with your energy, your drive. Yeah. So I think a lot of it just comes back to like doing like, and I say like consistently applying your talent. So whatever your talent
Sure.
is, consistently applying it each and every day. Um, and yeah, just trying to be as positive as you can be, regardless of the circumstances.
Yep.
So I've had some really menial jobs, but I've found
Mm-hmm.
I've sort of gamified those menial jobs to try and come up with a way to make it interesting and be competitive with myself. And I'd end up the fastest, most efficient of unpacking boxes in a warehouse. And this is like, 30 years ago, but I found a way to enjoy it. And then just that's the way to do it. Like gamify a system, become really good at it, become efficient, become the best, and then like leverage from that
Yeah.
and continue to do so. Um,
It's
Whether you're
amazing.
driving forklifts, unpacking boxes, unpacking. I used to unpack containers. They'd come in off the wharves. They'd be full of cigarettes. So they'd be, I'm trying to remember, there'd be 5 cartons of cigarettes by 5 in what was called a
Uh-huh.
shipper. And it was like It was plastic wrapped, and they were just packed on top of each other. The full shipping container was full of them.
Yeah.
So I used to start work at 6 a.m. in the morning, and I would just the forklift would lift up a pallet, and we'd stand on the
Yep.
pallet and we'd lift them onto the pallet, and they'd take that away, and we'd edge our way into the shipping container. And so me and my
Gosh.
guy that we did it together, there'd be 2 or 3 crews doing it. We always were first. We got competitive, and we were like, this is like, it was like a workout though. It was like the best
Yep.
cardio. It was like a circuit workout, and we found a way to find joy in it and gamify it. And it was like, it
Yep.
was probably a pretty shitty job, but if you can survive that and find fun in it, you can do anything.
You can do anything. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that. And I mean, yeah, you seem like such an optimistic person. Like it's crazy. And you mentioned how like, yeah, you can also have bad days, but it just sounds to me like it's a complete mind shift for you when if you start feeling like you're getting into the negative headspace, it's just like, well, no. Um, it's about reminding yourself about, yeah, what did you say? You're happy, you're healthy, you have
Full of
everything you
positive
need,
energy.
like full of positive
Yeah.
energy. Yeah, that's awesome. It's definitely, I
And
think, yeah,
it's like the placebo effect. Like a placebo effect is a real thing. It's like the
yeah,
power of your mind and your psyche. And if you tell yourself the right things, then you can achieve great things. And like if I get off track, I've got really great people around me that know exactly what to say just to break me out of it. But when I worked
yep,
at Hayes, I worked at Hayes in recruitment, and we did 13 4-week periods was our billing cycle. So you had 4
yep,
weeks to hit your goals to make commission. So that was 20 working days. And I would break it down to my team. I'd say, you got 20 days to make your
right,
commission and make money that can change your life or change your family's life. And I'd always understand what the team's goals were financially.
right,
And so we'd always leverage that and always remind them what we're doing this for, even if it's a shitty day. So if you ruined half a day, that's like five. What's that like? You do the maths. Like one day was like, 1 day out of 20. So like that's a big chunk of your productivity. If every Friday you went to the pub for a long lunch
yeah,
and then got on the beers in the afternoon, you're wasting like a big chunk of that week. Like that's 10% of your productivity of that week. And if you do it every week, like it has a real impact. So how you invest your time and energy is a choice for every human. It's a real choice. And if you invest it wisely and you
mm,
do it well, then the greatest luxuries in life come from that. And the greatest luxuries are yet again time and the power to choose how you invest that time. So the freedom of
yeah,
choice. And money is just a facilitator of that. So invest your time wisely at work and at home, and then all the good stuff will come from that. But if you like get distracted, you procrastinate, you're doom scrolling on social media, you're not doing what you should be doing, you're never
yep,
going to achieve that status where you have the freedom of
no,
choice and the time to invest in whatever you want to do.
yeah, damn you, social media, ruining my life. um,
You just
so,
curate it appropriately so you can cut it out.
oh,
Maybe, I don't
I
know.
know.
The algorithm
I know,
is
I know.
powerful.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it, but they get me every time. But look, coming back to I just want to stay on this train of like celebrating your successes, right? I would love to know what is the one thing when if someone asks you what is the one thing you're most proud of that 40/20 Consult has achieved? What would you say?
Um, it's actually trying to provide an environment where they can be happy, healthy, and full of positive energy. And
Okay.
everyone in the team knows it's not going to be every hour, every day. But if the
No.
majority of the time they enjoy what they're doing and the environment is conducive to that. And we've been really accommodating with people that have challenges outside of work and in their life, and we're really flexible and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some recent ones, and we want to be that employer that just says, like, just don't worry about work for a while. Go and sort that stuff
Yeah.
out. That's gratifying to me. But it's trying to create like wealth growth opportunities for everyone in the team.
Sure.
But probably what I'm most proud of, like personally, is helping clients build their wealth growth opportunities through their own businesses. And we've helped
Yeah.
a lot of one people bands grow to be 10, 20 or more businesses over the last 5, 6 years. And then
Awesome.
you really embed those partnerships where they don't talk to anybody else. They deal with us exclusively. And we're on this ride in parallel. And having those people that we talk about business and life and those really strong relationships. So that's been like the biggest benefit to my whole career, is having these, like, you could call them a client at the start, then they're a partnership, and then they become friends. Really having those relationships that are amazing. And, that makes life and work a lot easier when you can create those, and everybody can create those if they live their values and they have real integrity, and you'll gravitate towards people that match that with you, and then they'll love to be around you, and you can just be a reflection of, you can be the mirror, hold it up to them and their amazingness, and vice versa. And some days it's like you're doing like a post-grad certificate in something because one of your client partners or your friends is a guru of, commercial management, like contracts law, and you're picking their brain, or I'm talking to them about their branding and their marketing and how to amplify that. We're talking to you about, some of the cool innovation and best practice around pre-contracts work winning. Like, there's all this sort of stuff, that little 5 minute, it's like TED Talks almost constantly in my life.
Mini TED Talks.
Where I don't I don't feel the need to go and do like a heap of like formal tertiary study, because I just feel like blessed to tap into this information that's just, it's so cool. And like gathering it and sharing and disseminating it appropriately is a big part of what I do. So I'm a hub, helping people pumping their tires up, but also helping them, connecting them to work, connecting them to other people to joint venture with. That gives us a real big kick. That's when the juice is worth the squeeze, is one of my favorite sayings. The juice is worth the squeeze.
I've never heard that before, but there you go.
Use it. It's a good one.
I think it will.
When you're having a tough day and you're in the grind, the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah, the juice is worth the squeeze. Love it. Cautious of time, I have a couple more questions for you. Coming back to more of an industry focus, so we're talking civil construction industry and what you're seeing around the place. What is something that you can say that you're absolutely loving that the industry as a whole is doing right now? Is there like a standout one thing?
Look, I think it's really important that everyone is talking about health and well-being, mental and physical, and more companies are walking the walk and trying to be innovative in that space. Like, it's really critical, and I think it's great. I want everyone to be genuine with their intentions and not to be lip service or a tactic to win projects. It's not something just to put in your capability statement. So I think if we continue to like really, really focus a lot on that, because we have a capacity shortage, we have a capability shortage, and if we don't look after the people we've already got and retain them in the industry, then it's going to get even harder. One of my bugbears has always been around branding, and about every website or capability document in civil construction, you could just take the logos off and swap them around, and it's the same shit. And I've been harping on about that. Like, since I worked at Penzar Infrastructure for 3 years, and that was a great journey. And I was general manager of new business. So I managed like recruitment, resourcing, marketing and comms. And I helped, it was like a dotted line to bids and the bid coordination and like the layouts and the formatting of all the documents. And I was always like, we have one narrative, one story. It doesn't change depending on the audience. It's like, if it's potential staff to come and work for us, we tell them the same story. If it's our team already, our colleagues, if it's a client that we've already got, or if it's a potential future client, let's live our values with integrity and authenticity and just tell the same story. And so they've been on this journey where they embrace that, and their paraphernalia, their website, all their stuff has always been different. They never looked like they were. Sometimes you're like, what industry is this company in? And you'd have to like dig a bit deeper for the information. And one of my other things is, don't tell them everything. Don't tell them everything. Give them a reason to call you and ask questions. And that's happening a bit
Yeah.
more these days because if you tell them so
I
much
like
with your
that.
website or your capability document, they're like, oh, I know all about virtual civil consulting. I know all about 40/20 consult, whatever it
Right.
is. They don't contact you and you never know that they were curious. Um, so
Sure.
having like titillate their curiosity and they've got to talk to
Yep.
you, they've got to meet you, they've got to call you, they've got to email you, and then that's when you got to
Mm.
turn on the magic and make them a believer. um,
Okay.
that's probably
I
two
like
two
that.
things I
That's some
like.
good
Like
advice.
I always talk about those, but like one of my bugbears in life is leveraging third party testimonials. So good
Oh.
people say nice things about you. Use that.
Yep.
Like don't believe me. Listen to what these people said about us.
Yep.
Um, and like in our industry,
Yep.
people don't do it enough. They bury their references at the back of their
Yep.
TMR template CV. Like bring it to the front of the party. Celebrate the good news. And a lot of my clients
Yep.
and the people we partner with, they celebrate that and they bring it to the front, which is great. So I like that. That's
Yeah.
becoming like, don't be shy, tell your story, be proud. And some of them are breaking out of their shy shell and talking about it a bit better.
100%. 100%. And I don't know if you've seen, but this was something that you told me when we first met, that that's what I should do. And it did take me a little while, but then that's all I've been posting recently. And even though it feels so strange to do it, it's been amazing. And we've seen the
Yeah,
results because people then just start contacting you. It's then word of mouth, or their network is always
exactly.
someone that you never expect. Yeah, it speaks so much more than instead of saying, hey, look at me, I'm so good, like hear it from the people that have actually can attest to that. So yes, I
Exactly.
do
And I
agree
think
that it
it's,
works.
yeah, it's like, it's a show me, don't tell me. So like now, I mean, I'm
Yep.
persuasive and I can influence and I get fired up. I'm passionate about it, but I'd rather just say, look here,
Yep.
talk to these people. Here's what they say. You can ring them up.
Right.
And your example is great because you're helping small companies like DMC and like emerging
Mm-hmm.
boutiques like PD Project Delivery who are
Yep.
becoming bigger, but you also working with BMA and like huge companies, so you can like show
Yep.
your agility and diversity of your offerings depending on the circumstances. You can still add value to a really small company or a giant company, and then leveraging that information to amplify your own brand. And I've seen some of that stuff on LinkedIn and it's perfect. It really sums it up beautifully.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Okay, well, real quick, we'll end with two couple of questions. So you mentioned
Cool.
the stuff that you're
I'll be
loving that the
quicker.
industry's doing, right? What is no, you're doing great. What is something that you're hating that the industry's doing, or like something that we desperately need to change? I know it kind of like still works in with the health and well-being, but I'd love to hear this controversial take.
Well, I mean, just like we need to increase productivity. We need to work out a
Hmm.
way that on construction jobs where the contractors are building the work, that they are able to
Hmm.
work the hours that the client reps, the project management advisors, and the design consultants work. I think 50 hours a week is realistic, manageable, and fair in the construction delivery
Hmm.
phase. But I know what
Hmm.
some employment contracts say on major projects: 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. We're just going to break people. We're going to lose them to the industry. But in order to like offset that, we either hire more people and we don't make as much
Right.
money. We increase productivity. We automate things that might help us. But
Hmm.
realistically, is coaching the asset owner client class to be more reasonable about how they engage with contractors, be more realistic about
Yeah.
what things cost, and actually
Yeah.
realize that pay these brilliant companies what's fair and reasonable to deliver their projects so there's
Mm.
enough money to ensure that everyone's getting paid well, not burning out, and there's more people than you need. I wish we had 10% fat on every job as far as resourcing,
Oh,
not like a 20% deficit. Um,
100%.
job share with part-time people that want to work 30 hours a week. Do a job share. Have two of them sharing a job. There's lots of
Yeah.
really simple ways we can have more people staying in the industry, have better health and well-being, but better productivity, better results. And it all starts with who's got the money, who's awarding the projects, how they engage
Mm.
with the contractors, how they engage through procurement with the commercial advisors. Um, And like, I think you could say BPIC is like prescriptive and it's restricting the industry, but I think
Right.
you can look at it as like a beautiful thing in what it's trying to achieve, like ideology wise. But some people call it the union tax. I think there's something where we've got to come up with a way that
Right.
everybody wins. We all win as an industry, and it's fair for everybody.
Yeah. I hear you. Burnout's real.
Yeah, it is real. I talk to people all day, every day. Like the work I do with IAQ and the emerging professionals of infrastructure Queensland, like they're the best and brightest young people. And they're like, I just want to encourage them to have brilliant careers and have their health and well-being and relationships and friendships as well. And they actively are choosing not to do jobs that they like because of the hours and the burnout. They're going in a different direction. And we've got to address that. And with QMCA, with the young construction professionals, I work with those guys and girls as well. And we've got like task forces there that are actively looking at ways to address this and make it like commercially viable, as well as like the best for the industry and the industry participants. And it's going to be hard, but if we put the best brains into it and we actually share the info and we gather together as an industry, we can do it. It's just not going to be easy.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And it'll take time. Like everything new that's introduced, it'll take time. But look, one last question. I usually ask all of my guests to kind of leave the audience with a little bit of advice, but I actually want to ask you a slightly different question to channel in some of your knowledge and experience and expertise in kind of the recruitment side of things. What is some advice you would give someone who is looking for a job, not just on the application side of things, but also I feel like wage at the moment is a really tricky one. How does someone go in with the best knowledge as to what is fair and reasonable for them? Because at the end of the day, everyone thinks they're worth $1 million, right? But then how do you go in to a job and they're saying, oh, we'll give you this, but you're like, oh, but I was expecting, way more than that. So sorry, that was like a 10-part question.
No, I get it. And it comes back to like fair and reasonable sharing of information. So I think every recruiter, every company that's hiring people should be divulging like the salary or the contract hourly rate up front, so nobody wastes anybody's time. I think anybody at any stage of their career should build a network of supporters, advocates, colleagues, peers they can ask those questions of, but also like have some recruiters that you are like-minded with, that you share information with, that you can ask questions like that about. They might place you occasionally, they might never place you, but find those good people that will support you in your career without just looking at dollar signs all the time. But ask those questions up front, because if it's not the salary that you're looking for, don't waste anyone's time by going along for it. You don't think you can influence them by being amazing and they're going to pay me an extra 20 grand. They've probably got a really good reason for that salary banding. So don't think you can convince them otherwise. But I think continually like investing in your network and sharing ideas, helping your network, then when you need to ask questions, that's when it pays back. The karma, you can ask people, you can ask me, connect with me on LinkedIn, ask people that are connected to the industry that know. But I reckon all the recruiters, all the companies need to just divulge the salary up front, and not some like 120 to 160 base wage, like a realistic range, within 5 or 10% max of what is realistic. Don't talk it up to get more people interested. Be real about it. So there's sort of two parts to it. But lean on your friends, lean on your peers, ask questions.
Okay.
I think is the best way to do it. But be realistic about your own skills and experience too. Ask people and say, this is sort of what I'm doing. This is what I'm good at. This is my growth areas. This is the salary that I'm chasing for this kind of job. And hopefully people will be like, you're kidding yourself. Or they go, you know what? You're kidding yourself the wrong way. You deserve more money. So just constantly gathering information. Information is power, basically.
Okay. I love it.
Anyone that listens to this, they connect with me, they can ask me as well. It's simple
exactly.
as that. Yeah.
Everyone connect with Joel. He will answer all of your questions.
It would be cool if anyone that sees this and connects with me say that they're connecting because they saw this, and then I can feedback some data to you.
That would be awesome. Okay, I'm going to
Let's do
put that in the caption. So make sure you reference this. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time. And thanks to all our listeners.